Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lakeville Plan Approval Authority to order. It is Thursday, October 14th, 2021 at 6:45 p.m. This is a remote meeting in accordance with the provisions allowed by the Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. The October 14th, 2021 public meeting of the Plan Approval Authority will be held remotely. However, to view this meeting in progress, please go to facebook.com/LakeCAM. You do not need a Facebook account to view the meeting. This meeting will be recorded and available to be viewed later date at www.lakecam.tv/. For the record, tonight in attendance for the planning board members of the Plan Approval Authority, I have Peter Conroy present, I have Jack Lynch present, and I have Michelle McEachran present. Myself, Chairman Mark Knox present. Let the record show Barbara Mankowski is not present. The only item on the agenda that we have tonight is the approval of our minutes from our July 8th, 2021 meeting. Before we act on that, I'd like to restate Barbara Mankowski has just entered the meeting, so she is present. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes for the July 8th meeting? I felt they did a good job of not much business at that meeting either. I'd make a motion to approve the PAA minutes for July 8th, 2021.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Peter?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Myself. Motion carries unanimously. Being that we have no old business or new business to conduct, our next meeting date will be January 13th of 2022. And Kathy, am I correct in saying that all other PAA business has been addressed at this time? I'll take that as an affirmative.
Mark, when's the next meeting again?
January 13th of 2022. So I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the Plan Approval Authority meeting of October 14th, 2021.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Peter?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Myself. Motion carries unanimously. Meeting is adjourned. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lakeville Planning Board to order. It is Thursday, October 14th, 2021 at 7 p.m. This is a remote meeting in accordance with the provisions allowed by the Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. The October 14th, 2021 public meeting of the Planning Board will be held remotely. However, to view this meeting in progress, please go to facebook.com/LakeCAM. You do not need a Facebook account to view the meeting. This meeting will be recorded and available to be viewed at a later date at www.lakecam.tv/. For the record, members present from the planning board tonight, I have Peter Conroy present, Barbara Mankowski present, Michelle McEachran present, Jack Lynch present, and myself, Mark Knox, present. Kathy Murray, the clerk for the planning board, is present. And at this time, I'd like to read a public hearing notice into the record. I'll read the notice. Notice of public hearing. The Lakeville Planning Board will conduct a public hearing pursuant to the Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 81T, on Thursday, October 14th, 2021, at 7 p.m. to consider the application of South Coast Redevelopment LLC for approval of a definitive subdivision plan entitled 162 Bedford Street, which is a 6-lot subdivision, a definitive plan for a residential subdivision submitted by Prime Engineering Incorporated for a 6-lot subdivision located at 162 Bedford Street, Assessors Map 26, Block 5, Lot 2, The land is owned by South Coast Redevelopment LLC of 239 Main Street. Plans are available for electronic reviewing by contacting Planning Department via the town's website, or may be viewed in person by appointment only by contacting the Planning Department at 508-946-3473. The agenda found on the Town of Lakeville website, Planning Department page, will also include related documents pursuant to the provisions allowed by Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. This will be a virtual meeting. And states planning board members. So this week we received correspondence from Prime Engineering. Dear Planning Board, on behalf of South Coast Redevelopment LLC, Prime Engineering is requesting to withdraw without prejudice the subdivision of the Form C application accompanied by the plan set titled 6-lot subdivision at 162 Bedford Street. We will be applying for a special permit with the Zoning Board of Appeals. If a favorable outcome is reached with the Zoning Board of Appeals, we will resubmit to the Planning Board with an updated subdivision plan. Sincerely, Prime Engineering, Richard Rayoum. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to either withdraw without prejudice or deny that request.
A motion to accept their withdrawal without prejudice.
Second that motion. All in favor? Peter?
Aye.
Barbara? Michelle?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Myself. Motion carries unanimously. The request has been granted to withdraw the subdivision plan. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to close that public hearing for 162 Bedford Street. Did I get a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor? Peter?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Myself. Motion carries unanimously. Public hearing is closed. Next item on the agenda is 124, 126, 128, and 130 Crooked Lane. Vote to sign a covenant. This is something that we've already voted on to accept the covenant. So I would just like to make a motion to allow the chairman, myself, to sign the covenant on behalf of the entire planning board with a majority vote to approve.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a statement?
Go right ahead.
I request that the covenant vote be tabled due to the inaccuracies within the document and the fact that the fourth signature, the fourth lot is missing, and the fact that lot 2 is currently being sold.
Well, I don't know that that would be wise to delay this process. I think it actually defeats the protections that you were looking for.
I'm just not sure how you can vote on something that has inaccurate dates and a signature missing for the fourth lot.
I thought the covenant, just to clarify, there are 4 parcels and the covenant is with respect to the drainage easement, which is between lots 2 and 3. Is that correct? I don't have.
The easement is for 2 and 3. The covenant is for all of the parcels.
Then it should include parcel 4. But parcel 4 isn't going to be loaned in seed.
It also indicates that the occupancy permit for lot 2 would be withheld. And I guess my question is, if it's my understanding that that parcel is being sold, is the new owner aware of the covenant that's being put on lot 2?
Not if there isn't a new owner. They don't know yet.
That would be a seller disclosure item, I would think. All 4 parcels are included in here. Where are we saying that they're missing the 4th signature? Kiko, where's are you talking about the signature page is missing? For the
Yes.
parcel, okay, the owner of, yep. So it can't be signed without that. Unless one of the owners owns both the parcels. Because the signature line doesn't reference who the owners are. It just says the owners of the land for which the application is included. Just,
Again, there's inaccurate dates as well.
all right, so what are the inaccurate dates? Are the
September 30th.
Yep. We must have approved this prior to, Kathy, do you have the date when this was originally approved? Because I've missed a couple of meetings. So I think that the vote in this case was not regarded, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not related to the covenant per se. It's related to our authorization for you to sign on our behalf, because this covenant was already previously approved. Is that correct?
Yep.
So that's probably why the date is different, because it was probably approved prior to that September 30th.
Yeah, we already voted on this. It's water under the bridge. We're just basically voting for me to sign it alone, not all 5 members.
Just, I would request that all 5 members sign then.
And then you're fine with it?
No, I'm not fine with it. I think that it should be corrected as far as the dates should be accurate. I think that the 4th signature, the lot should be there. I think someone needs to investigate whether or not lot 2 is being accurately portrayed as far as the potential sale of the lot, since the contingencies are put on lot 2 and that person's not going to be able to occupy their home if our address in the covenant are not put in place. The idea is that if all of the things are put in place, then there's no problem and occupancy can be given to lot 2. But I'm telling you that I believe that lot 2 is being sold, and that I don't believe that that's being disclosed to that new owner.
Well, is it okay if I comment here? I'm just going to jump in. But the fact that the covenant was approved by planning board and then is subsequently signed during the sales transaction is definitely in my opinion, it would be the responsibility of the seller to disclose that. And if the buyer finds out that they didn't disclose something as material as this, then I think that that's going to pose a challenge. That having been said, I think that if we missed the date here, so they were talking about, finishing the construction of the drainage basin. If that piece wasn't done by September 30th, then they're withholding funds, which when this vote was taken, I think the board felt was sufficient. Right? I mean, I don't remember voting on this, so I apologize. I might have not been at that meeting, but they're going to withhold a certificate of occupancy for lot 2, or $5,000 should be deposited with the town to secure completion of the basin. I wonder if Kathy, do you know if the deposit has been made with the town? Probably not, because the covenant wasn't signed yet. I would presume it wasn't received because this wasn't signed. Now it's October 14th.
So I've reached out to Zenith Consulting Engineers and their attorney. I'm going to await a response. So temporarily, I'd like to table that discussion and go on to item 4 from the agenda, which is the housing production plan, Barbara.
Okay, all right, so the truth is, I love data and it's fantastic, and I always think more is better. But the reality is that I think that even if we were to get these revised reports, very few people in our community would necessarily be utilizing them. I don't think many people are looking at the existing housing production plan that we have in place right now. So from that standpoint, I would recommend, I guess my position is I'm going to stick with the tier 1 sample. It's my understanding that we do have a budgeted amount of, I believe it's $30,000 that's been added to the annual town meeting budget. But and so if people feel differently, I think we'll still have the leeway. But it just seems to me like it's probably going to be overkill.
Yeah, I don't think at this point, if we're just starting out, I think that the $15,000 option is the way to go, not the $26,000 option, $26,000+ option.
Great.
So does anybody else have any thoughts or points they'd like to make on the housing production plan request through Serped? So I'd like to make a motion to send a memo to the town administrator to clarify the budget request of $15,000 for a housing production plan.
A second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Barbara,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
and myself. So that motion passes unanimously. Bear with me. Attorney O'Shaughnessy has reached out to me trying to get the Zoom link. So I just sent him that, so he should be with us momentarily. Item 5 on the agenda is the amendments or making some changes to the sign bylaw. Did anybody get a chance to look at that?
Yes.
Any input from anybody? I honestly didn't get much time put in on it. I noticed a few things that still work on as far as language definitions. If nobody wants to discuss that tonight, we can just continue that to our next hearing. Anyone else want to delve into it? Michelle?
Yeah. So I think we have the definition for the electronic sign included here. And we also included definition for a billboard. And then I know Nate had looked at this and asked about adding language to describe the refresh rates for the static images. And when I did some research on that, it looks like the static rates are supposed to be fairly fast, or at least recommended by the sign companies. That was the only sort of information I could find. So I thought maybe language that said static images which refresh seemed to be all encompassing, but I would like any input from anyone else
And
on that.
I checked that off for yay. So
Okay.
that's,
And then the lumens, I think I included that little handout on the last time we discussed this. The 100 lumens seemed to be a good amount. I think it was like over 400 could hurt your eyes. And then I believe Nate had recommended signs. Signs shall be limited to a maximum height of 20 feet as measured from the crown of the road directly perpendicular to the sign, or 20 feet from surrounding grade, whichever is less. Just to kind of make that clearer. There's a portion here, 6.6.3.7. When you read it, it says the colors red, green, or yellow should not be used in a manner that might confuse the meaning or stop signs, stop lights, or other traffic signs. That was actually picked up by the recodification process, and the wording just doesn't sound right. Might confuse the meaning or stop. So I would suggest might be mistaken for. So in a manner that might be mistaken for stop signs, stop lights, or other traffic signs. Unless anyone else has something else to suggest.
What number is that under, Michelle?
6.6.3.7. And then the next part was, I think, something that we had discussed also. I just tried to find a way of putting it in here. The unlighted signs less than 2 square feet designed designating entry and egress from parking areas and other necessary directional traffic control and safety related signs shall have no logos or markings other than directional markings. Because I think we didn't want them to be advertising as well.
Yep.
huge. I think that's great.
And then I know at the bottom here, electronic signs message boards. I think this we put in at the bottom to try to wrangle in the existing signs in town. And I know we wanted to ask town council about if that's a possibility, so that by allowing smaller signs like this, we could potentially have the existing signs then meet the proposed.
And I think part of that discussion too, Michelle, was to add in language to control the hours of operation, or more so the hours of non-operation, to say that maybe when a business closes within 30 minutes of its closing, the sign must go dormant or hibernate. I talked to one businessman in town that has one of these signs, and he said that's very easy to do. And then you can have it come back on at, say, 6 or 7 in the morning. The only other thing I thought was if one stayed on, that it should only display either time or temperature. But again, adding something to the bylaw to control hours of operation or to make them hibernate once a certain hour approaches, I think that would be then enforceable to all signs to gain a little control over the signs in town, that we don't want them blinking and flashing at 2 in the morning. So
Right.
that
So with
said,
those, oh, sorry.
I think Mike O'Shaughnessy has joined us. Do we have you on, Mike?
Yeah, I am, Mark. I apologize, folks. I'm about to head into another meeting. I heard on the agenda was the request to sign the covenant, and it's my understanding there's some issue, and I'm calling in to see if I can address it.
Yep, thank you. Ms. Orell, would you mind restating your concerns about the covenant?
Yes, the covenant as depicted has inaccurate dates. It has September 30th listed as a date with a penalty, so clearly that cannot apply. The fourth lot is missing as far as a signature, and it's my understanding that lot 2 is being sold. So my concern is that the contingencies are being put on lot 2, and this covenant doesn't apply to all 4 lots. In effect, if things aren't put into effect and the covenant isn't followed, it's only lot 2 that's actually affected because the occupancy permit would be denied.
Mr. Chairman, that's what Ms. Orles is saying is in fact correct, and that is what we presented to the board. The goal was to stabilize the site as much as we can and create the basin. And we have the September 30th date was the date by which it was supposed to be constructed. The project proponent is going to be posting the bond for the stated amount. We wanted to get the covenant signed and on record in case it is sold. That way the future property owner knows what rules they have to play by. And during our discussion, there was always lot 2 was going to be the CO for lot 2 was always the CO that could be withheld, and the property owner agreed to it. Lot 4 was never part of this discussion because it had already, I believe the house is already constructed. So the 3 unconstructed lot owners have signed the covenant and they're agreeing to comply by it.
Mr. Chairman, lot 4 was always part of the discussion because of the bylaw that requires that if the land is disturbed to the certain amount, that they would appear before the planning board. That's why it appears in the document, and I would submit that it would need to be included as part of the covenant.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, Mr. Chairman, I'm not quite sure that the bylaw would cover all of the lots. I think each lot was an individual ownership at the time, and when this issue arose, lot 4 had been conveyed. And the property owners for the 3 remaining lots were willing to work with the town to resolve this because of the Orals concerns. And that's what we did. We had hearings since early spring, I believe. And this is where we landed back in July. So again, the covenant was presented to the board, as was the easement. The easement was recorded. The covenant has been signed by the property owners and is presented to you. It's intended to protect the town and to ensure that the work gets done as promised.
Understood. And my only, well, maybe not my only question, but Ms. Orell brought up the September 30th date, which has come and gone. Can you speak to that at all, as far as that kind of leaves us at a bit of a loss because the date's already come and gone? Is there a penalty that's going to be incurred by something that they didn't get to by now?
No, he intends to post he's intending to post the money to ensure that that basin gets constructed. And we're trying to get this all in place before the lot is sold. And that protects the town and it protects the other property owners as well. And that's the intent here. Otherwise, if this doesn't get executed, we're going to be in the same position we're in now, months from now. So, the covenant was proposed to avoid this.
I can agree with that. I do believe that it adds protections to the town and the abutting properties. Without the covenant, there are no protections. This was really a gift by the engineer to suggest this because they are all Form A lots. So in theory, they didn't need to go through.
No, the bylaw states that if they, I'm sorry.
They don't
Mr.
need a
Chairman.
covenant. They do not need a covenant. They just needed site plan review, not a covenant. Again, this is a benefit above and beyond. They're not forced to do this covenant. They're offering, it allows protections to abutting properties, those properties, and the town. So I don't.
Is there a way, Mr. Chairman, is there a way that the document could be revised to reflect accurate dates? I don't understand how you can enter this. You can enter in on behalf of the town into a legally binding type of document with inaccurate dates and with
Mr. Chairman.
Again, this we're supposed to be just signing a document that we agreed to previously. This shouldn't even really be on our agenda as far as I'm concerned. This should be something that all of us should have signed, but here it is tonight for discussion. And it's discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
We should be just voting to sign this. It's not a discussion to amend the document. We already voted on it. All we're doing is vote for me to sign it instead of everybody.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I believe the board previously voted to sign it, and I could be mistaken. So, and the
That's
reason
accurate.
we're putting it before you. So
That's accurate.
it's just formalizing the document. Mr. Chairman, not to be short, I have to scuttle into another meeting.
All right. I appreciate you stepping in.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice night, all.
Thank you. So on that note, I'm going to make a motion for the chairman to sign this document. If there is no other discussion from the planning board.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Peter?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yep.
I'm just curious as to why it took so long, because we did vote on this quite a while ago and approved it. And is there a reason why it took so long to get to us to be signed? I guess is my question.
I don't know.
I mean, I understand the date portion of it, but there is, the money that they're supposed to put up in case that they did not follow through, which it sounds like they didn't.
Yeah, my understanding is that it should have been just in the office for us to sign after we voted the first time.
Can I request that before this signed covenant is released back to the applicant, that the funds are received? That the deposit funds can be confirmed received before we release this? I mean, it's $5,000. It's not that much, but I
I
think.
agree with Barbara. I think that's fair.
So I guess I'd make a motion that, we not release the covenant until, the funds referenced in as being due and payable in paragraph 1, and if applicable, paragraph 2, I guess that's it, are received by the town of Lakeville.
I'll second.
Let me just get this clear. You don't want the covenant filed at the registry of deeds until the funds are in hand?
I don't want it, well, I would, yes, I don't think it should be recorded until, well, that's where you get into a quandary, right? But,
The
you
whole
know,
purpose of the covenant is to get it filed.
okay, well, we can show them that we have a signed copy and we would like to get it filed, but they do need to bring the deposits in. They're already in breach of contract. Right? I mean, I don't mean to use that strong language. That's not really fair because they haven't done anything wrong other than that we have a delay with getting the document. But in fairness to the town, you know, I think they shouldn't be surprised.
So I would rather, and again, I know we have a motion and a second on the floor, but I'd like to maybe have those retracted and continue this discussion with, maybe we request that the building commissioner hold back on an additional occupancy permit if the funds aren't, the bond isn't posted for lot 3. Nothing?
Are you saying that instead of,
I don't understand why we wouldn't have them file a covenant. The whole reason to get the covenant is for the protections to be filed at the registry of deeds. So why would we say we're not even gonna let you see the signed copy of it until we get the money? It's just holding up the process. Get the covenant signed, get it notarized at the registry of deeds and filed, and make a recommendation for the building commissioner to enforce somehow to get that, the funding for the $5,000 that's supposed to be held in a bond account. So make sure everything's completed.
I mean, I get Barbara's point, Mark, because like, what part of the drainage basin and forebase, has any of it even been started? Any, none?
My understanding is
haven't-
it's been staked out. That's it.
So that's nothing. So, I mean, like we said, this is months old, but they didn't do it. So, I mean, I get worried that, that if we sign this and they get it and they're off to the races, then it won't get done. You know, $5,000, it's not a lot of money, but it's enough. So,
and honestly, I would prefer the holding back of another occupancy permit over the 5,000, I think.
can you do that? Can you do that legally? Where it's not in the covenant right now? Right now, it's just one CO and one or 5,000. I don't want to make this more complicated. It'd just be easier if they literally brought down a check and then they picked this up all in one trip.
Well, who records it? What's the mechanism here? Is it the applicants who filed this with the registry?
Okay, so I just got a text from somebody who knows, and I'm just gonna read item 1. The applicant agrees to complete the construction of the basin and forebays by September 30th, 2021, period. In the event the basins and forebay are not completed, the applicant agrees that, number 1, the certificate of occupancy for lot 2 shall be withheld, or number 2, $5,000 shall be deposited with the town of Lakeville. It's one or the other. It's not, it's either occupancy or $5,000. And that's because it wasn't installed by September 30th. So September 30th wasn't a hard deadline to have it done. That just triggered either the occupancy being withheld or the 5,000.
Agreed. I agree with that.
So again, I think we've acted. It needs to be signed. It needs to be filed at the registry of deeds, and either one of those two things are going to happen. And because it's filed at the registry of deeds, when the new owner of lot 2 buys it, they will see, and an attorney will do a search and find that there's a covenant on that property because it was filed. If we don't act on this and they buy it tomorrow, guy's screwed.
I would like to formally retract my second.
Okay, I'll retract my motion. I mean, I just want to do the what's right for the town, and I do agree that, the penalty of having the certificate of occupancy held back is far greater than the $5,000. And they did act in good faith because they, coming up with a covenant was a mutually agreeable solution to one of our concerns. So the builders,
so- And to be clear about the whole floor bay drainage thing, if it gets installed, there's not a bond needed. The bond was only for the drainage.
right.
So
All right, I'll make a motion to have Mark sign it.
Second,
have a motion in a second. I believe we already did this, but all in favor? Peter,
aye.
Barbara,
Okay,
Michelle,
Aye.
Jack. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, back to item 5 on the agenda, the sign bylaw. So we were at 6.6.7, the hours of operation or non-operation.
so my question there, Mark, is why is this, the ZBA is currently approving the signs, right? These kinds of signs are currently under their purview.
So we, in an amendment to this bylaw, I think that if we change the electronic message board portion of this, and or any part of the bylaw, it's my opinion that the planning board should be the special permit granting authority, not ZBA. The signs are based on commercial businesses, and I think that the planning board doing site plan review and signs being on that and sign location, the planning board should handle any special permits. So that should be part of the language and amended bylaw for the signs, is that the planning board handle that.
All right. I'm really happy about a lot of these modifications. Do you want to continue this conversation? Should I make a motion to continue for next meeting?
Yeah, I'd like to continue the discussion. And in fact, under just to what we just discussed, 7.4.6 down at the bottom, under electronic signs and message boards, Michelle already has it in there that the planning board is the special permit granting authority.
And if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So Nate had put in the part about add requirements for the grant of special permit. I think we had talked about the 12 square foot in size and turned off overnight hours. Not exceed the 100 lumens. Are there any other items that anyone can suggest or wants to maybe we should look further into, just so we can kind of move along and maybe do some research on this to try to.
My only thing, Michelle, is I think that signs and design standards kind of go together, and that a lot of our signage is kind of, I mean, it's not awful. We haven't turned into Raynham, but I mean, it would be nice if there was more continuity to maybe the design of the sign structure itself. Is it white? Is it metal? Is it black? Does it blend in? Does it not? I don't know. I don't know. But that would be my only additional thought to what I see so far.
Just a thought. The police department has one of these signs in front of it. And it's fairly tasteful.
It is.
And I think what makes it tasteful is it only has white lights. It doesn't have bright reds or flashing multiple colors. And And I don't know if that's a grounds for some leeway. That if one of these signs is installed, that if it just had the white lights, it's kind of like seeing, I don't know, it's sort of an old fashioned sign that was just a white background with black letters. It's very neutral and not in your face, but you still notice it.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's something we want to try and put into the language somewhere under those electronic message boards that maybe you could allow them to be, I hate to say allow them to be bigger, but give them some more leeway somehow. If it was only single color, either, well, I guess I'd want to just say a white bulb. Because I think if you veer from that, then you just say single color and it could be bright yellow or orange.
Mark, a question. So non-electronic signs or message boards would still go to the ZBA if they wanted something larger than the existing bylaws. Is that correct?
Well, again, this is what the discussion's for. So if we
Yep.
wanted to
No,
handle
I
all of
get
them,
it.
I think that we could put it under our umbrella, and I'm sure that they probably wouldn't be hurt. We can ask them that too, if there's, because I'm not looking to step on the toes of the ZBA as much as just through commercial businesses have those things come to us rather than what I think should be our responsibility be turned off to, or passed off to them.
If I may.
Michelle, go ahead.
So right now, we kind of left it as billboards being under the Board of Appeals still. So billboards could be not necessarily on premises, right? So maybe that's something that would fall
Yeah, a billboard would be,
under them.
we defined, we tried to put a definition of over a certain size, but by definition, I think already in our bylaw, a billboard advertises a business or product that's not on the premises of the billboard. So, I mean, is that something we want to add regulation to? I know there's a couple of billboards around town. There's one on Route 44 up by that Japanese restaurant, Mucky's, I think that's in Lakeville. There's one right on Route 18 by the 79 lights. And I don't want to see them all over the place, but do we want to add any kind of protections to make sure that they don't spread all over town? You know, make them definitely be by special permit or?
Hmm.
Yeah, like define it and, oh yeah, so we did put in billboard, any sign larger than 64 square feet is considered a billboard. So if we're gonna define it, I guess it should be specified whether or not it's special permit or prohibited or
Well, we have that it's special permit in, towards the end, down here, wait. Paragraph 7.4.6. It says sign, it's on the last page, signs larger, higher, or greater number than specified goes to the Board of Appeals, also billboards, right? Am I reading that right?
So I think we could actually walk back that definition that we tried to put in of anything bigger than 64 square feet. And what if we just said no sign over 64 square feet is permitted? And then have a provision for billboards separately, because that's, the difference would be you can advertise on your property and it not be a billboard if you advertise for yourself. But if you know, it turns into a billboard when it's an advertisement for something off premises. So that's already sort of defined in the town's definitions.
Mhm.
I wouldn't mind seeing them be prohibited. So maybe we should be tabling this. See who we can talk to about.
Yeah, I like the idea of having ZBA weigh in since they've had so many of these.
All right, so you want to wrap up this discussion and I'll continue it to our next meeting?
Yep.
Good with that?
Should we ask that the ZBA make a recommendation to us or anything in the meantime?
I'll email John Oliveri and see what he says, and if he wants to ask the zoning board of appeals at their next meeting, so he can ask them in their entirety. We can do that and give us feedback. So I'm going to make a motion to continue the sign zoning bylaw draft changes to our next meeting on October 28th, 2021 at 7 p.m.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Peter,
Aye.
Barbara, Michelle,
Hi.
Jack,
Aye.
myself. Motion carries. Item 6 on the agenda. I didn't see anything in the packet tonight. It's design standards. We had talked about that at one of our last meetings. Barbara, did you get a chance to do anything with that, or did Rodney or anybody from the zoning board of appeals reach back out to you?
No, the only person that has done anything on this is Michelle. So let's just call that what it is. Thank you very much, Michelle, for sending out the article. There are many different formats and ways to lay out the rules for consumers about this. And then, of course, the design, characteristics themselves are, I'm sure, a matter of, public conversation or whatever, hearings. I've signed up for a CPTC class that's coming up on design review because I think that's part of it. And I would just say we should probably continue it to next week because I've been taking so many vacations. It's just all catch up now. I'm done with vacations, everybody, for a little while.
Lucky you.
Michelle, did you circulate anything, the stuff that you did?
So I basically just saw that Yarmouth had a really well done example. If anyone's interested, I can definitely share that with the board. I mean, it has like photographs, literally you can just kind of visualize what they're looking for. It's very clear, concise, and I think it's only 14 pages. And yeah, so if anyone's interested in looking at that and seeing if there's anything that you'd like to use.
Yeah, I'd love to send that
Yeah.
link. I think you might have before, but
Yep, same here.
buried deep in my
Please.
email.
I have a couple of more that I can send on, but I like the one that Michelle sent for being concise. I don't necessarily like the design standards that they lay forth, but I like the layout as it was presented. It's more simplified. Some of them are very, they're a little too much, too detailed. We don't even have a historic district. You know what I mean? So
Right,
we
we have
need
to be
something.
cautious about some of that.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yet.
All right, did somebody motion to continue, or
Motion to continue.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue design standards discussions till October 28th, 2021. All in favor? Peter,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Michelle,
Hi.
Jack,
Aye.
myself. Motion carries unanimously. Design standards will be on the October 28th agenda. Next item on the agenda is the master plan implementation fee review project update. There's quite a bit of information in our packet. We had I think the old with some amendments, and then there's
Yep.
the new. And I do remember seeing comments from council to make sure that these fees were justifiable and not taxation without representation, so to speak. I remember she kind of gave us a litmus test in the legal response. Do you guys remember seeing that?
Yep.
I guess I'm bringing that up because I feel like maybe she felt some of these may not have met the standard.
I thought she was saying that because we didn't have a planner yet,
Well,
but I feel like if we have one, that would have been met. That was how I read it.
well, I think her point was it's listed down, it's the last item. It was about the definitive plan B, right? That we had the planning board had the discretion to waive fees, and she didn't like that.
Yeah, that kind of has a bad look to it.
Mhm.
So I'll give a hypothetical though. Let's use the 162 Bedford Street that we looked at tonight, and it was withdrawn by the applicant. What if they asked us, because they're going to resubmit, could they get some sort of a refund on the fees that they paid and for when they resubmit? Because we didn't have the hearing. However, it was publicly posted, so there was a cost involved that the town incurred. And I'm using that as an example. I'm not suggesting in any way that we would offer a refund to that project. But I guess I'm just devil's advocate. What if somebody came to us with a similar scenario?
Well, we have in here, we have a public hearing fee, which would have been $100, which they would have had to pay no matter what. Because we had a public hearing scheduled and we incurred costs, right?
Well, it depends on the newspaper advertisement cost as well as the mailings, the public mailings, which I
Which
don't
they-
think are part of that fee. I think those are like a pass-through that gets added to the $100 cost.
Yep. Well, we also have the repeat petition fees, which we have proposed to delete it, but it's $100. So in that case, we would have collected $200 for the fact that things had to be rescheduled.
Well, no, so I believe what we collected was $2,100.
Yeah. And so if in this scenario where they decided to withdraw without prejudice, and we would be incurring the $200. We would be charging them $200 if they were to have a repeat petition, and if they had to have a public hearing, right? Am I wrong? Am I misapplying those?
They've already paid $2,100.
They would get back $1,900.
Not if the newspaper postings and the mailings to the public and all those things were higher than $200.
Well, then that would be a pass-through. That's not the same as our fee that we're
I think it's
charging.
covered within that $1,500 plus $100 a lot.
It definitely is. But I mean, in this case, we're talking about, would you get, are they going to be out the fees if they withdraw?
So they would, in theory, get them back if they requested to withdraw without prejudice prior to it being posted.
I see, okay.
I-
Once it's
I'm
posted-
told that that's how it gets done, is prior to posting, but this was posted and we were notified, I think yesterday I got notification, or maybe the day before, that was gonna happen. So
Right.
the 3 weeks is already long since gone for that to go in the newspaper and any abutter mailings to go out. So I think, there are clerical fees, the cost of the postage, the cost of the newspaper advertisement, I think more than once.
Well, the other thing,
So,
as we develop our resources here, we're gonna have some, if we had a planner, in order to prepare for this meeting, that person would have spent quite a bit of time, reviewing these plans and so forth. So perhaps you're right, if it is advertised as a public hearing at that point, fees are non-refundable.
right,
was
I
gonna
mean,
be my point.
at that point, you could maybe say, we could give you $200 back to reapply out of the 2,100 if we never had a hearing, if it was advertised but never heard, because there would be maybe 2 or 3 meetings that the planner would have attended that are part of that fee schedule that in theory would be the cost. And again, I'm really not trying to give money back on that one as much as I'm just trying to have this devil's advocate conversation. You had brought up, Amy didn't like the waive fee things, but is there an actual way we can put in there to say refund unused funds or unused fees if applicable?
That's more administrative costs, though. Now somebody's got to do the work, and they've got to document it, and then they've got to cut the check. For $200 for somebody who decided to schedule, I mean, this is a lot of effort that's going in on everybody else's part. I don't know why somebody would withdraw their application. I'm sure there's many different reasons, but
Yep, yeah, well,
I feel
Go
like
ahead, Michelle.
refunding is kind of,
Well, I was just gonna say, so if they had come in with a Form B, that's cheaper, and then we already have the credit that if they come in with a Form B, the Form C is gonna cost them less. I think that's part of the incentive is to avoid this. Because like Barbara just said, and that was what my point was gonna be, is we're actively pursuing hiring a town planner. The money has to be set aside in the budget. So it is gonna be a financial burden for the town. So anytime these plans come in, as soon as somebody looks at them, that's time is money. So I think we should definitely push people to come in with a Form B prior to the Form C. And as far as giving people, a refund for time that's already been spent, once we have the planner, I think once the time has been spent looking at the plans, having discussions with whoever is involved and, communicating with the board, et cetera. I still feel like anytime these plans come in, especially when we get to the point of having the hearing, it's whether or not they show up to the hearing or decide to withdraw the day before. I think that's moot. I think they should definitely have to, absorb that fee because they're using the services of the town.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Like I say, I'm just trying to vet the process, because I was just gonna say, what if we use a different, the Form B or Form A as an example of applied and then withdrew, because with the Form C, a lot of times they're just trying to start the clock ticking. So, but when they submit it, that gives us the 6 months or whatever to wrap that up. And even if it's a junk plan on the first one, which is a waste of our time and the planner's time if they just weren't ready. They just gave us basically a cocktail napkin plan, wasted our time. That's it almost, if it wasn't a reputable local builder that we knew, it was maybe just, I don't want to say taken advantage of by a busy engineer or something. you'd almost feel bad, but recommend the Form B rather than do the C. But, you know, if they're just starting the clock, just deny it. If it's a junk plan,
Mm.
just if you think they were just trying to start the clock and put our feet to the fire so we'd have less time to react because they wasted the first 2 meetings with a junk plan. It's a consideration. But again, my point was just, do we want to put any language in there for any, or do we just eliminate the waive the fee? Because that's what Amy didn't like.
Oh, so if you scroll down a little bit, I did try to clean it up, and because that one, it had our proposed, and then it had some comments from Nate, and then also comments from Amy. So, and then after we'd gotten Nate's comments, we had kind of reworked it already, and then gotten Amy's comments back. So if you look down, I think it's kind of hard to see because I did it in blue, but so she said, you know, we can reduce the fees, but not waive. So then if we just change the wording to at planning board's discretion, fees may be reduced for a development which preserves open space. I think, you know, instead of waive, would that?
Yeah, why not? But it's still subjective, and I think that was her question. Yeah, that's what she says, it was subjectivity.
And I think we talked about revisiting the special permit for DO district and also for that water development district. And I suggested a prorated for
So-
lot coverage.
Just to go back to the one you were just talking about with the waived fees, I'm just reading, looks like Amy's notes. In my opinion, this could be a reduced fee. So I don't know if you're putting in language to say the planning board has the right to reduce fees, or if you put right in the fee schedule, if you submit a plan with preserving open space, the fee is just less. And you're just upfront with, and the incentive there is you're advertising to a developer that if you preserve 30% open space, will reduce the fee of the subdivision that you're applying with, or whatever development you're applying with, by preserving open space.
I like that. To give them an amount that they know that they'd have it reduced by if they preserve open space, a certain percentage.
Yeah, you could do it by a percentage, or just say instead of it's $2,500, it's 2,000 or 1,750 for a plan that preserves open space. Whether it's just a direct cost like that, or to your point, a percent reduction. I guess the percent reduction would be beneficial if it was multiple lots, and so that the cost would continually accrue the bigger the subdivision. So, but the bigger the subdivision, but they preserved more open space, that it would wholly go down at a percentage of that increased number.
And do you think 30% is a good number?
Are we strictly talking about subdivisions or streets, or is this across the boards for open space? You can't really do it, or I guess you could, say on site plan review. If somebody came in with site plan review and they met the density bonus by far, and they still had a beautiful plan and, nice landscape and preserve, you could give a reduced, it could apply there for an incentive. To say it's 30% less, I guess. I'm just trying to answer them all to see if it's applicable.
In all fairness, in all honesty, I don't think it's going to make a hill's beans worth the difference if it's $500 or $1,000 to a developer if they're preserving open space. If we don't have any other incentives for doing it, they're doing it strictly for the marketability and the appeal for the, people buying those properties, if there's no other incentives for them. And $500 or $1,000 isn't any amount of money in this space. So I don't know if we're, saying we're gonna save them $500 is, I don't know that it's gonna be an incentive for them at any time. But it's a nice thing to do. And, I'd love to find a way to help them out any way we can, but it is a small amount of money in lieu of what they're giving up.
I agree. And it would just, I think, be a lightning strikes thing for the right development to come in and check all the boxes to have that open space thing, and it still met the applicant's needs. But we asked the question about reducing fees, and we're just trying to come up with language. If there was
I like it. Why don't we change the word waive to reduce? Amy liked it, Michelle liked it. It seemed to.
As long as it's not, yeah, I don't see why not, as long as it's not viewed as too subjective. But I guess that's the whole purpose, but it's nice to know, well, how much would it be reduced? And then it turns into, well, what are you gonna give me? Is that a blatant negotiation?
I think we should come up with some number. I think that would give us, not just an applicant, but us, like something to go off of too. Oh, they're meeting this requirement, so they should be entitled to something.
Well,
Well, for the point of this discussion, I do think that change the word from waived to reduced, at least to make that progress. And if we want to come up with a percentage, we can add it to that as well.
do we want to go through and start approving some of these so that they're wrapped up? Because we've been continuing this for a while.
Yeah, Barbara, would you mind walking through them one at a time? And you read the ones that we're going to go through and
Okay.
you feel are
So
complete.
Form A, Nate's question is this for every new lot, or would it apply if it was just a property line adjustment? Should there be 2 fees? My answer is it applies to all situations. It's $250. Do you know what I mean? And if the town has to spend time on it, it just doesn't seem like that much money. I went to dinner last night, bought dinner for 3 people, and it was like $100. So
Yeah.
I just don't think it's that much money, and I don't think anybody's going to feel like it was a hardship. And if they change the property line, that's still time we have to look at it. So I would approve that
Peter,
one.
you've been on the board for 8 or 9 years. And we've seen, I can recall a handful of these coming to us where they just had to move a line. Most of the time, from my recollection, it's an A&R lot that was approved, but then a mistake was found and it had to be changed.
Yeah, I would agree. The other thing we see, or I think we've seen a fair amount of, is the swap. That would be covered under this as well. And I agree with Barbara. $250 per lot is I think that's 2021 money, and maybe
Right.
the $100 per lot is the year 2000 price. So
Yeah, and so my point is, none of those that we've talked about, unless you can think of one in your history on the board, it was really a hardship where somebody had to move a property line because of a hardship by one party that was.
yeah, and if there was a hardship, I would certainly hear
When
that.
I say a financial hardship.
Yeah, I agree. If there was a financial hardship, is there ever a time when we couldn't waive this?
But do you feel that in your time on the board, you've seen any of these that have been a financial hardship
No,
to have to move a property line?
no.
Okay, so I would agree with the 250 where that's the case, that historically, it's always been for an advantage or one or both party.
I could say one thing, their engineering fees from 15 years ago and to this summer are not the same. They've definitely gone up. So for them to pay a higher fee now is very in line, you know?
Yep.
And like we've been saying for a half an hour now, we're about to bring on a planner who's gonna have 40 hours a week. And you know, they're gonna be paid a lot of money. So to bring in a little bit of money back towards what they get is I think is very reasonable. So
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the approval not required proposed $250 a lot.
second,
Motion and a second, all in favor, Peter,
aye.
Barbara, Michelle,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
myself, motion carries unanimously. All right, so we're on to Form B, preliminary plan, went from $100 to $400 per lot. Went from $100 per plan to $400 per lot.
And Nate's suggestion is that we add an asterisk so that the applicant is aware of the credit. Because if they, Pete can probably explain this one better, but if they do the Form C,
So where is the language to say that it costs? I just see at the bottom of the cost of all professional consultant review fees by planning board be borne of the applicant, and all costs incurred by the planning board for the advertising, mailings, and public notifications be borne by the applicant. So we need to add a third asterisk to say this fee will be transferable to a Form C if submitted.
yeah,
That seem accurate? So right next to $400 per lot, you'd have 3 asterisks. And on the third page, we'll have 3 asterisks. And that will say Form B fees may be applied to Form C application. I think you want some language in there that says if you just don't want a ton of changes. So you looked at a Form B with 14 lots, and then after this preliminary discussion, they put something back in there with 25 lots or 2 lots. That's entirely different. That I don't think that that's transferable in the same way.
mhm,
And I want to put language in to make sure that the same plan is submitted for the Form C.
okay. That's a great suggestion.
So Form B fees may be applied to a Form C application if no major changes are made. And I'm sure that we'll need some legal review on that, but
Don't we have to have it say, if the Form B is received 30 days before the Form C?
Yes, I think that it kind of said
are
that
the rules and
already.
regs,
Yeah.
is that the rules and regulations?
Okay, cool. Motion to approve.
Well, I think we need the review on that one now.
Now we need to review. Okay.
Motion to approve with review.
Okay.
We need to resubmit that one for review through the building commissioner and then possibly to legal. So we got a motion
Second.
And a second. All in favor? Peter,
Aye.
Barbara, Michelle,
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Next item, Form C, definitive plan was 700 plus 100 per lot, now is 2,000 plus 100 per lot. With the note, you may want to consider aligning per lot with the Form A, so it would go to 250 per lot.
I like that.
Everybody agree? So
Yeah,
Form C,
does make sense.
definitive
Yeah.
plan will be 2,000 plus 250 per lot.
Second.
Okay,
Got a motion and a second out there?
second.
Did anybody- Was there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve
Okay.
that with the modification that the fee will be $250 per lot.
Okay, and Jack, you second that?
Second, yeah.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Peter,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Great. Motion carries to approve definitive C plan, 2,000 plus 250. Form C, definitive plan following submission from a Form B. So here you go. But well, so is that the note that we put on B, but it's actually just part of the application process? So we didn't really need the 3 asterisks.
Okay. So we can delete
Um,
and get that one approved?
Well, I think we still should say what Mark suggested about no major changes. Maybe include that as well.
Yeah, okay.
Well, no, so now it doesn't make sense.
Because, so I believe you said the 250 per lot for the Form C, but what we had done was Form C following a Form B, it was 250. Without the Form B, it was 500 per lot. So it was twice as much per lot without the Form B. And that they would get the credit from submitting the Form B towards the Form C. I thought that we had said it would be 1,500 for the Form C.
Did.
If it followed the Form B.
If it followed a Form B.
So there's no filing cost or advertising with a Form B. That's just for the planning board to get a first crack at. So I guess I want to walk back to the Form B preliminary plan at 400 per lot, which is more than the 250 and the 250 per lot of the other two, the A and R or this definitive plan.
I thought we had said 250.
What's that?
I thought we had said 250 per lot for the Form B.
No, that was Form C. We changed the per lot fee.
The let me just see if there's a. Okay, so I have 2 different sets of these. I'm probably working off the wrong one. Yeah, because there's 2 sets, one with the proposed, one with the comments, and then we have another set with proposed comments and legal comments. So I guess I want to go back to the beginning. The Form A, this one says 500 per new lot, 250 per modified lot. And the last one I was reading was 250 per lot, period. So which one are we going to go with?
I think that was subsequently modified, Mark. I mean, we don't, this one,
So we're going to stick with the 250 per lot,
yeah,
period.
based on the feedback from July 8th. Yep.
Right. so we're sticking with that. So then this one, the Form B has 250 per lot on this one.
Yep. And why did we raise it?
Or did we bring it down from 400 to 250?
I think we brought it down because Nate had said that it should be the same. So I think we revisited that already.
Okay, so should this be on the Form B? Should that $400 per lot be 250 per lot?
I thought that's what we had said, yeah.
Okay,
Right, so Barbara, there's two different sets of these in our packets. If you flip to the
Yep.
second set, that one has
Yep.
the 250, not
Yep.
the 400.
Okay.
So then on the definitive plan, we're gonna stay with 2,000 plus 250 per lot. So all the lots are gonna be always 250. Is that
correct.
accurate?
Yep.
So Mark, I'm sorry, one more
Yep.
thing. If you keep going down in that packet,
Yep.
so there's another set. This is where I tried to clean it up to keep it a little bit more straightforward. And I thought that this was what we had most recently agreed on. And I tried to include language like we had discussed. Do you see the third one? It's just, it doesn't have the comments really next to it. Proposed 250 per modified lot for just a property line adjustment, 500 per new lot.
I see it.
And then the B was the 250 per lot. And the Form C was the 2,000 per plan plus 500 per lot. And that's without the B submitted. So then the Form C, following submission of Form B at least 30 days prior to that of Form C, was 1,500 per plan plus 250 per lot. So they're getting a little bit of a break, and then what they pay for Form B is applied to it.
So Michelle, you would like to see the Form C definitive plan following a Form B be 1,500 and 250 per lot. Now we were consistent. They're all, per lot fee is the same all the way across the board.
Yes, I thought that I think we had gone through this after Nate had given us
Yeah.
his feedback originally, and then we were just waiting for town council to review it. And I think it took so long that, we kind of forgot.
Yeah, that's why I just kind of want to get this off of our desk.
So does it make sense then? If on Form A, we have $500 for a new lot. And on a definitive plan, we have 500 per lot. But on a preliminary plan, it's 250 per lot, and that is transferable. So you're saying it's an additional 250 when you do the Form C it with the B? I just want to make sure that language reads right, because it looks like you're saying
Because
the
it was-
250 per lot applies, so that I'm reading that you can almost like cross out the 250 per lot with the Form C that's submitted 30 days after a B.
The applicant would save $500 if they did the Form B and then the Form C. It's $500.
It's more than that. It starts to collect up with the more lots of the subdivision, correct?
I believe it was a total of the 500 per lot, but they would get a break. They'd pay the 250 per lot, and then it would go towards the Form C. So they're still paying the 500 per lot, but they're getting a $500 break.
All right, so I think that where it says 1,500 per plan plus 250 per lot, it should say 1,500 per plan plus 500 per lot. And then put a little parentheses there or something to say with the Form B minus 250. So it still appears like the total is 500, because again, to me, it looks like you take the Form B preliminary plan at 250 per lot, And you go down and then you submit a Form C, and all you gotta do is pay $1,500 because you already paid the $250 per lot. I know we're trying to say 500, but it looks like with the credit, the line, the way the credit. Well, I guess maybe not, but the way that. It was the notes on the other pages kind of make it confusing when you say the credit.
So Mark, I think where I was held up is when you talk about okay, so I'm using the first packet, the first section from today's meeting, which has the most updated comments. It has the number 7 in the corner.
Yep.
I'm looking down at the Form C definitive plan, and we've got a fee of $2,000 plus I think the amended $250 per lot, correct? If I understand what you're saying, what you're thinking is that should actually be $500, 2,000 plus 500 a lot.
The problem is we have 3 of these in the plans, because now I'm going off this one now. It's got the blue text. And that
Right.
one's, to Michelle's point, we had a discussion and we did some changes to make some be 500 and some be 250.
Yep. I don't know when they got changed, but
And yes, we did amend to 250 on that. But I think that was because we overlooked a previous discussion that we had. That said, let's use the copy with no comments in the comment section and the blue text on proposed. If you submitted a preliminary Form B, what if we just made it a flat fee, not a per lot, of say $750? And then when you do a Form C followed by the submission of a Form B, you do $750 plus 500 per lot.
So you're saying Form B, 750?
Just a flat rate, $750 to submit a Form B, not per lot, no additional anything. So then when you go down to the second Form C definitive plan, following the submission of a Form B, at least 30 days prior to that Form C, you change that to $750 per plan plus 500 per lot. So they're still saving $500 instead of submitting a Form C straight up.
Okay. That makes sense.
The lot doesn't change, but they get that reduction in the larger fee.
Yep. And it keeps the per lot the same.
Seems
And it-
reasonable.
And with the 30-day stipulation, it makes them come back to us in a reasonable amount of time to say, we've got these changes, or we want to submit it now as a Form C. You already had to look at it, rather than it be this ongoing kick it around for about 6 months before they decide to submit. And it cuts out any confusion about the cost per lot. Everything's $500 unless it's a modified property line.
Yep.
According to this one.
Okay.
so are we going to give them a credit or no?
That is the credit. They're only paying $1,500 total instead of $2,000 per plan.
Okay, I just wrote down $750. It's past my bedtime mark.
Correct. 750 plus 750 is 1,500.
Where's the other set? I'm sorry, I only wrote down one 750. Okay. Whatever
Form
you
B. They paid 750 at the Form B.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have that. And then 250 per lot. I got it. Nope, that makes sense.
No. I didn't say 250 per lot. There's no 250 per lot.
Okay.
The second box down on the page, right under A&R lot.
Yep.
Flat fee 750.
Okay.
And then if they come in 30 days and do a Form C within 30 days, they pay another 750 plus 500 per lot. So the savings is they don't have to pay 2,000. They've only paid a collective 1,500 through the two 750 fees.
Okay, great. Great.
And then it cuts out the confusion of 250 first and 250 again. And I think it's it's not an incentive to get a Form B if they have to pay all the lot fees up front, or even half of them. So we'd probably get a Form B if we changed it to be less than half of the application fee of a C, not including the lots.
Yep.
Okay.
Repeat petitions. Are we gonna just get rid of that line?
Yep.
Changes, minor $200, major change $1,500 plus $200 for advertising. Do we need to put the 200 for advertising where advertising? I don't want to put a cost, I guess, on advertising. What if it costs more than 200?
Okay.
Because if you have to notify a butters, certified mail plus a newspaper ad or whatever. What if you just said major 1,500 plus advertising costs or advertising fees?
If you have the asterisk, the two asterisks at the bottom saying all costs incurred by planning board for advertising and mailings for public notification.
Yep, I know it's there. We could always just put the asterisk too.
Yeah.
Just I don't think we want to be bound to a specific cost for advertising.
Yep, agreed.
Because that, if we don't update our fee schedule and the postage goes up, we're taking a hit.
Okay.
Engineering review fee, as billed by engineer, inspection fee, as billed by engineer. Surety, 15 per linear foot via bond or surety, see rules, regulations for complete explanation. I think that's fine. Anybody else have discussion on that? Is 15 enough with today's cost? Did we ever look at other towns for what they hold in a surety? Is it by foot per road or?
I couldn't find anyone to compare it to.
Okay, so we'll keep that one the way it is.
I'm just going to point out that Nate's comments on the most recent version say, could this be taken out as it's spelled out in the rules and regs? I haven't done a lot of roads, so.
And that's kind of my thought behind where I put see the rules and regs for complete explanation. I didn't know if we should take it out altogether, because I think if it's a fee in there, we should have it as part of this fee schedule.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
So we're just leaving that, calling the rules and regs as the more information. Yeah.
Because it says, and I did highlight it above, the surety amount of 15 per linear foot of road shall be retained by the planning board and held by the town treasurer until such time the town accepts the roadway, whether by fee or easement. So it does spell that out in the regs.
So we good with site plan review? minor, major, up to 3 acres, and over 3 acres.
I like that. That's been consistent.
Had no real comments. I don't find any comments in any of these 6 documents. So I'm guessing that was well received. So I'd say we leave that one where we're at. Development and Opportunities District, 500 per acre got crossed out. Visit them, suggest prorate for lot coverage, 20%, 50%, 70%.
Yeah, Peter had said, maybe a starting point of 1250. So I did 50% lot coverage, which is our standard as the 1250. And then I kind of prorated that up and down. To
So
the
this is the one that Amy commented on. I just want to read her comment. Well, I think an increased filing fee can be proposed, particularly for 43D administrator. I do not think 500 per acre will pass the Emerson test, as it is still one project. That was the one I remember from reading the notes before. So it's almost a tax based on the size, based on the, when we had the 500 per acre, and I know we've got that crossed out. I guess with the suggested 20%, 50%, 70%, does that pass the test, the Emerson test? Or is that, has that been run by anybody?
No, so that was why I put revisit item, because based off of town council, she said no to the 500 per acre. And I think our last discussion, Peter had said, okay, well, 500 times the 25 acres that DO needs, that's the 12,500. So maybe use 12,500 as a jumping off point. So I did 50% lot coverage, which is our, I believe that's, without any of the, without any,
Density bonus.
thank you. Couldn't think of it without the density bonuses, it's the 50%. So I figured assign that number and then kind of prorated it up and down depending on how much of a lot coverage percentage. But I mean, that was just, I just kind of threw it out there to put something in there. If anybody has something else, then, we should definitely consider it.
I think if someone's willing to only cover 20% of the lot, I mean, I'd almost love to see them have no fees. Because that's great.
Wait, hold on a second, Barbara. Can you repeat that for the cameras?
I know.
No fees.
Yeah, Holly. No, it's just a thought. And 70% I feel like isn't high enough, but it should be higher.
How are these costs generated? Or I look at 12.5 at 50%. So if you drop to 20%, that's 2/5 of.
Can't hear you, Mark. You have to repeat.
Is there a mathematical equation that we used?
I think I just did, I took 30% off of the 12.5, I think it was 10.7. Yeah.
And then added
10.7.
20% to get the 15,000 at 70%?
I took 30% off of the 50% coverage.
To get down to 20%,
Yeah.
the 87.
And then I went 20% up to get up to there. So like I said, these were just starting points.
I like it. Thank you, Michelle.
But I mean, if you think for the 20%, it should be a lot less, then maybe we should half it or something or more.
So I like where we're starting. the bigger the lot, the easier it is to not cover all of it. Just thinking development opportunities district, it's got to be 25 acres out of the gate. So you're talking about a substantial chunk. I'm gonna, same thing I always try to do, devil's advocate, is that big chunk of land off County Road that runs parallel to Freetown Street and 140. It's like 300 acres. What if an applicant comes in and puts in a roadway and proposes, I don't know, 2 commercial buildings, whatever they are, no idea. I'm not saying anybody's done this. I just think, is there an opportunity for a savings if they come back now and add on to their, so they put in a roadway and then they made it be, say, 2 lots, which you're allowed to divide parcels to be less than 25 acres, as long as it's all encompassing as you approached for an application through the Development Opportunities District. What if they come back now and say, we're going to subdivide off a lot and develop another piece within there, meets all the zoning requirements, but does it no longer meet Development Opportunities District standards? And would it be a by right use then?
Wow, that's a great question.
Well, if the permit
Or,
issued based on usage of the parcel that they've provided, then I would think that usage is considered part of that special permit, so they wouldn't be able to come back without affecting the viability of the special permit to redevelop, right? Because if they came back and they said, well, we want to break off a piece of the property.
all right, so let me pose it to you this way. From strictly, I'm trying to get at the fee portion of this. So Joe developer comes in with his 300-acre parcel. And he says, I'm going to develop 25 acres of this under the Development Opportunities District. Or he just says, I'm going to develop it under the Development Opportunities District. And he puts a building in the lower right corner of this giant parcel.
Mhm.
And his lot coverage is like 2%.
Of the 25 acres, not the
No,
300.
300.
Well, why, then if it's 300 that's used for the special permit, then it applies to all 300 acres. You can't then come back and say, well, now that you've approved,
I think he can. Why couldn't he?
well, then he's unwrapping the special permit that he obtained.
Maybe it's a modification. I don't know. And again, I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just trying to be
Devil's
devil's
advocate.
advocate to say, so let's just say he did that.
Yep.
And he had 2% coverage, and it was basically no fee then. And then he comes in and he says, I'm gonna divide off 25 acres now and do Development Opportunities District on, and is there a loophole there?
Mark, aren't you saying, isn't he saying that if he's gonna use 25 acres, that he's gonna make that a Development Opportunities District? Then we determine what of that 25 acres is going to be open space, and the fee applies to that and that only. And if he comes in and says, okay, now I'm gonna do another 25 acres, a year later or 2 years later, and then the fee applies to that as well. He's subdividing this up, and they're in large enough chunks to each one qualify. Right?
Mm.
You can't say, oh,
I guess I'm saying, what if he did 50 acres? So what if he said, I bought 50 acres, so I'm gonna do.
Okay.
a
out
development
of
on
300.
that. Yeah, so discount the other 250. He bought 50 acres and he's gonna apply under DO. But he's cleverly gonna push his development to one side of the property. There's no open space stipulation, it's just lot coverage based on this fee. So then he says, I'm gonna come back in 5 years, I'm gonna reapply, I'd like to divide off 25 more acres off my 50-acre parcel and reapply under the Development Opportunities District for that one.
Yep, then he has to reapply and now he won't have the coverage anymore, so he'll have to pay the fee.
Well, it's not about, if, correct me if I'm wrong, when we agree to somebody going into having open space, wouldn't it be on their, this isn't about fees anymore. This is about them having open space in perpetuity in that DO district, right? This isn't just about a one-time fee. They're saying, I have 25 acres and I'm only gonna cover less than 30% or 40%, whatever they say, and the rest is gonna be open space. Well, then that's open space forever.
Well, so the truth of the matter is legally, there is no forever in land court. Doesn't exist. That's the whole problem with open
Right, and
space.
so what I'm trying to get at is, if that happens, did he get one over on us for the fees on the first development? And then he comes for the second 25 acres?
I
Because
guess-
now the lot coverage on the first one dropped from, say, 25% to 50%. Because he just shaved off 25 acres to do something else next to it. So all I'm, and again, just throwing out there, do we
Yeah,
put a
no,
protection
it's-
in here for ourselves to stop something like that from happening, where they can't continue to cover a lot in the first development underpaid because it was a big lot, and then they keep coming back and adding on and adding on. We just need to have a mechanism to catch it, that's all I'm saying, so that we didn't give it away for pennies on the first one. Whether it's like you say, Peter, put it into a conservation restriction so that it can't be taken out. Or something, or
But I guess the question is, no matter what the term of a special permit gets violated, what is the recourse? You pull the special permit? If they violate any of the terms of the special permit,
so let's fast forward 5 years from now.
I'm really
And-
old.
I know, and you may not want to run again, you may not be on the board. So we got a new board, a bunch of people that haven't been through the development opportunities bullcrap. And there's no history with them, and then all of a sudden, there's nothing on this document that says anything. I want to try to put a stopgap in to make sure that it doesn't get slipped by the next group.
Yeah, this is a very dangerous zoning bylaw. So you're right, Mark. We got to beat this thing up left, right, and sideways so that it's, solid.
Do you see what I'm saying, though? I'm sure you do. It's just, I hate to be embarrassed by something like that, because Joe, the nice guy, came in and he proposed something that was super, so we let him do whatever he wanted. But we didn't put any firm restrictions on it. Or like I say, I think a conservation restriction is not something that can be taken out. That can't be just a developer come and wash their hands of that. That's hard, permanent, forever.
Right.
Unlike chapter land, 61, you can take it out of open space type of thing, but a conservation restriction, or there are other mechanisms, I think, that would do that. So I wonder if that would be something you put in there for an ability to waive or reduce fees, would be a conservation restriction or other protections for open space. To actually, put their feet to the fire to say, oh yeah, not just, I'm not going to do anything over there. Yeah, that's right, you're not, because it's right in here that we're catching that it has to be a conservation restriction on that other 15 acres that you said you weren't going to use. Hypothetically, whatever.
So 20% lot coverage with conservation restriction. Or something like that. Or,
This is one of those ones we have to revisit a few times, I think.
yeah, and get council review maybe?
Yeah, so, all right, so you're just using the 20% one. Just with 20% lot coverage at 8750 for that development. So, yeah, let's just say that comes in front of us and we approve a project like that. And then, hey, 2 years later, they needed to put on some more parking and they needed an addition. And you're probably not going to say no because they have a viable business and employs people in town and they need 3 more acres of coverage.
So they'd need a prorated fee for additional
Or-
coverage, right?
Or initially, for that 20%, maximum 20% lot coverage, they pay $87.50 or 20% lot coverage with a conservation restriction on 50% of the property, they pay $47.50. Or say you do that with any size development, if they can. Do you just come up with a lesser fee if they're willing to put a conservation restriction on a certain percentage of the property?
I like
And just
that.
write that right into the fee schedule.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was reasonable.
Has to be a lot because you're really tying a builder's hands forever. So it has to be monetarily worth their while. Like the guy must be like, oh wow, that's a lot of money. I'll do it. You know what I mean? Because I think hypothetically, I go, if that was my piece of property and I was able to get a DO district spot or whatever, you know, $8,500, $12,000, that's nothing.
Right.
He's gonna be like, keep it. I don't need it. So
Yeah, and the other thing too is, do you get a guy that says, well, that's all swamp anyway, so
exactly, it's
What do I
open
care?
swamp.
Mm.
can't build in it anyway, so yeah, I'll do that and get my reduced fee. So do you say upland or something?
Well,
So maybe our fee has to start at a higher rate then? I don't know, because I still feel like when they're throwing around millions,
yeah, thousands
it's
don't.
really a drop in the bucket anyway. So I don't know.
I think we should revisit this in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
That's it.
brainstorm, send,
I think we do need to discuss it. We're not gonna hammer it out tonight, but I would like everybody to try to
That's a
think
tough
about
one.
it a bit over the next 2 weeks before we reconvene on it. Come up with some other creative ideas. I think, while we're sitting here talking, I'm thinking, what if we adopted some standards and dimensional requirements and stuff for the Development Opportunities District that mirrored, I think, industrial zone.
Mhm.
What if we looked through that as well to increase the buffers between residential property? Not to save acreage, not to stop lot coverage, but just to protect the butters.
Mm,
Double them, just whatever's there, just let's double it and just readopt them as new DO district requirements
got it.
or for buffer zones and butters.
Mm.
So, all right, well, let's do that on that item. We'll reconvene. I think we've got everything else looking pretty good. And so the next item, special permit water development district, will mirror whatever we come up with for the DO. Second to last item, waiver, $100, question mark, revisit item and planning board regs.
Yeah, that was
So-
one that,
Are we looking to charge for waivers?
so the suggestion, I think, Nate had said something, and then you also said something about this last time. that if we keep giving waivers, why don't we just go through the rules and regulations and address whichever items constantly get waivers and determine
Eliminate
whether or not those should even be in the regs. So I feel like that the waiver portion, maybe we should skip that and handle that on itself. I think we need to take on the rules and regs at some point and look at those waivers that we give. So I just think maybe that's a separate, I feel like that's gonna be its own animal.
Yeah, you're probably right. If we eliminate that, not charge for a waiver, but probably two things need to go through the rules and regs to go through those items. And I think at the same time, we've talked about, because of the recent influx in the subdivisions that we've seen that are private roadways with homeowners associations, just coming up with some standards for the roads for, so we have standards for roads that'll be accepted by the town, and we've talked about coming up with other standards, but there's still at least a minimum standard, whether it be pavement or a road width or whatever, for these private ways, so they're all the same, so that there's not a willy-nilly, this guy did gravel, this guy did 20 feet of pavement, but it's just got a sign at the end that says private, or who knows? So I think in doing that, rules and regs and
The waivers.
roadway standards for private ways as opposed to town accepted roads. And anything else, we go through that exercise. Copy of rules and regs. Do we need to charge for that where it's downloadable?
I think we had checked with Kathy and we stuck the $50 on it because it's her time and she's got to copy it and paper, ink, etc. I think we did leave that 50 there.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I think that they're, with even a public records request, they're allowed to charge so many cents per copy. Do we want to just make it in a line with that so that they're charging however many pages it are, just a little bit more than the public records request?
I think what they charge is time as well. I think they charge per sheet and time.
Is that a quantifiable cost, or is the time depending on the individual that does the work?
No,
Is
they
it
give
set
it a
time,
limit.
or-
I forget what the limit is. I'm sorry. I'm sure Lillian knows it. I forget what it is. I think it's no more than $25 per hour. I'm not sure.
Right, but if you have the rabbit or the hare do it, it's not quantifiable. Right?
I guess.
I'm just saying, if there's a very expeditious person that does it, they could get the whole thing done in 5 minutes, and then somebody else might take a full hour. They probably still have a minimum cost. I don't know.
Probably a minimum of an hour.
All right,
I
I
think
don't
you
want to
could
get
keep
into
it at
that.
50 and discourage people from needing a paper copy.
Yeah.
I agree.
There are people
And
there
discourage-
that just like to, irk people, and they'll want their paper copy if it's
And
available.
discourage people from wanting to put town employees to work to make copies for them.
Exactly.
All right, so we're gonna move that to our next meeting for discussion as well.
Can't hear you, Mark.
So we'll continue this discussion until our October 28th meeting at 7 PM. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have 2 items for zoning board of appeals petitions. Bud's Goods and Provisions, 475 Kenneth Wells Drive, action required by the board. Did anybody have any information, look through that? I believe that they're trying to accept the or used the most recent site plan that we approved for the last applicant that was going to occupy that space. So my understanding is they're not making a lot of changes, but I read through the documentation. And one change from the previous applicant to this one is they're going to transport their goods. So my thought was that we make a recommendation to the zoning board of appeals that the applicant have suitable containment for loading of a vehicle, whether it be inside the building in a garage bay or outside the building in a fenced-in area, so that that can be done securely and safely without, I think it was done at actually 310 Kenneth Welch, which is an outside containment chain link fence corral. It's part of that site plan. So that would be my only recommendation or thought, was that that be added to the special permit and the plan, so that loading can be done safely without onlookers and interference from outside forces, because none of those places are really fenced in except for Bountiful Farms.
I think that's good.
You know, when we had a previous client, didn't we talk about having the vehicles or the transportation vehicles being unmarked? So that
I don't recall that, Jack. It might have been.
maybe I'm,
I'm gonna leave that one up to the ZBA. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add to that as far as a comment that we sent to the ZBA?
No, I'm good with that one suggestion, that it makes sense, so. If that's a motion, I'll second it, Mark.
Yeah, motion to send that to ZBA. Kathy, did you get all that? Well, not sure, so maybe I'll generate an email and send it. Moving on to cost, 129 Staple Shore Road. Looks like a little, either raise a house or addition or something. I didn't want to get involved in the residential things like that. Does anyone else have any comments? So, all right, I want to back up a step. I think we had a motion on the containment measures for Bud's Goods. And we had a motion in a second. So all in favor, Peter,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Jack,
I,
myself. So motion carries. We'll send that comment to the zoning board of appeals regarding Bud's Goods and Provisions. On DeCoste, 129 Staple Shores Road, I make a motion that we make no comment.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, Peter,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Jack,
I,
myself, aye. Motion carries unanimously. We have to approve the minutes from September 23rd, 2021. Everybody get a chance to review those?
yes.
Any
Just-
questions or comments regarding the minutes or any amendments?
Just one spelling. Page 3, under master plan, paragraph 1. Amy Quessel's name was spelled wrong.
Outside of that, there was no other.
Everything else looked good.
Make a motion to approve the September 23rd minutes for 2021 of the planning board with the changes as noted to correct Amy Quessel's name spelling.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Peter,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Jack,
I,
myself, vote aye. Motion carries unanimously. Being that I have no old business in our packet, I'm not going to discuss any. And I have new business correspondence Costello and Grandius. If you bear with me a second, I'm just going to run over to my printer. I think I printed that out. So this letter is being sent to you pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 61B, Section 9 and Section 14, to advise you that the owner of the above referenced properties has received a bona fide offer for the properties and intends to sell the properties. The properties presently classified as agricultural under Mass General Law, Chapter 61A, and recreational under MGL, Chapter 61B. And such, the town of Lakeville has up to 120 days to exercise the right of first refusal to purchase these properties. Rear of Rhode Island Road, map lot and block numbers 26004-004D, and 0 Bedford Street, map block and lot 26004-015, but collectively the properties. So does anybody have any thoughts or comments on this?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
So it does say that this property is under Chapter 61A and B, but they don't plan to change the use. It also says, while the town has 120 days to make a decision. So I was curious about this. I looked up the Chapter 61B, and under the FAQ, it does say, there's an example. They have Dana and Mike have, oh, no, not that one. So Eli has owned 13 acres, which he has had in Chapter 61B, open space and recreation, for 4 years. When he decides to sell the property to the Smith family, the Smiths intend to keep it in as open space land use. They signed an affidavit promising to not convert the land. Will Eli have to pay a penalty tax? So I didn't find something that matches exactly. This is talking about the penalties, but it does say no penalty as long as the new owners sign the affidavit saying they will not convert the land. Eli will not have to pay anything. The affidavit transfers any penalties for changing the land's use to the new owners. The Chapter 61B lien will remain on the land. If the Smiths wish to keep it in Chapter 61B, they must file annually with the local assessor's office. So I don't know. I'm a little curious about this because it also said a year in reading in the chapter property that the town would have up to a year to decide, not 120 days. So I'm curious about that. And I'm curious to know if there is an affidavit on file between the two parties that's, that meets that sort of requirement. I know that below in the documents that we received, it does mention it, but I don't know if how legally accepted it is, or if it needs to be specifically spelled out as an affidavit. So I guess if I know this is coming to us as new business, so I don't know if we're going to see this down the line again or what exactly the intent is, but I would like to have town council's opinion on this in case we're not covering ourselves as the town, because I don't want there to be any sort of, I don't want to say loophole, but I just don't want to miss anything here with the transfer. And then have them say, oh, well, it wasn't an official affidavit. So I don't know. I'm just not as familiar with this. Maybe someone else is. Because as far as them saying, oh, we're not changing the use now, it doesn't mean that they won't change the use, but if they do decide to change the use, I'm hoping that that would mean it would come to the town as right of first refusal at that time.
It is my understanding that transfer of ownership may trigger additional documentation on behalf of the new owner. They might have to apply with taxing authority or whatever, but the trigger for whether or not the town can acquire the property isn't the transfer, it's the change of use. So by virtue of them buying or selling a property won't necessarily impact. They would have to file paperwork to make sure that they stay in that status. But
To remove it,
it's changing the use,
it's to take it out of 61.
right? 'Cause
That's
they're
what
getting-
triggers it, is the removal from 61, so they're leaving it in. But again, I don't know why they're offering first refusal if that's the case, if they're not taking it out. Right?
Yeah, so I had a few questions. So I guess that was my concern, was just a few things just didn't, I don't know. I
Well,
just
you know,
wanted to be clear on it.
When we
But
have
if-
this is going to be a great subject for them to give us a little class on, a little, right? Some tools.
I guess I'm confused as to why. Well, are there several different things here? I have a couple of different maps, plans.
I'm not seeing any plans.
There are 2 pages of plans that came out with it.
Oh, right there. Yep. Oh, yep. It's showing the parcels and. Hmm. Are we able to continue this to our next meeting and maybe get some more information on it in the meantime? Or do we have to, I mean, it's just under new business. Do we have to make a motion on this at this time?
You see the date of sale, it's already sold. This is already transferred hands.
Oh,
October 4th, I believe they closed. So it's sort of water under the bridge to some degree.
oh.
Well, the letter from the attorney is October 1. So, so yeah, I'll motion to continue it till our next meeting, and we can do a little bit of research and maybe still come back up with it. But I'm looking at one of those plans, and I'm gonna guess that it's probably not something that the town would want to purchase. But nonetheless, I make a motion to continue until October 28th at 7 p.m.
Second.
Oh,
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Peter,
aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
myself, vote aye. Motion carries unanimously. Making an announcement that our next meeting is October 28th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Being that there is no other business in front of the planning board, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Peter,
Aye.
Barbara,
Aye.
Michelle,
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
So motion carries unanimously. Meeting is adjourned.